Thank you very much for the introduction. I believe our guest doesn't need a thorough introduction. I believe most of you already know him, especially because his book Return to Rams was quite popular even in this region because it was translated into Czech language. And I met with Didier last November, And when we met, we talked for almost 2 hours. It was very nice, but we mostly talked on politics. If you remember, we talked about the election in France and the election of Donald Trump in America. And maybe we'll get there today. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it's not our main topic tonight. You seem happy that this is not the topic. Our main topic tonight is Didier's recent book, or at least recent Slovak translation, which is this one. It's called Life, Old Age and Death of a Working Class Woman. It was translated by Peter Žiak into Slovak language, and the book is also available if you want to buy it, read it, or have it signed by the author. When I mentioned your book, Return to Rams, and I read this one, it kind of seemed to me that it's another return, maybe a return to a topic, or a return to your family, return to your mother. Why did you choose to return to these sometimes very difficult personal topics?
This is true. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I'm suffering from allergies, and as you notice, I lost my voice. So I try my best to speak, but it's not that easy. And I started writing, returning to Reims 15 years, nearly 20 years ago now. And after the death of my father, when my father died, I felt compelled to reflect on why was it that I distanciated myself from my family. I wanted to not to be related to my family anymore, and I had to reflect on that. And the writing of the book was a kind of sociological, historical, political reflection on social classes, on the school system, on the work of the working class people. And so this book has been published in France in 2009 and translated into 31, 32 languages. And suddenly the issue of social classes has become, again, a new a topic at the center of the intellectual and political discussion
in France,
in Germany, in Italy, in so many countries, because it was very strange to me that this issue of social classes have been completely pushed away, erased from the cultural, intellectual, theoretical, and political discussion. Social class was a kind of archaic word, archaic notion, and suddenly when I wrote this book, when I published this book, this notion was again on the table. We had to discuss that because one of the two chapters at the center of the book was to try to understand the shift from of the working class, the French working class, but it's true also in Germany and in so many countries, the shift from the left-wing parties to the the left-wing parties to the far right-wing. And my parents were very, very left-wing when I was a child, a kid, a teenager. And then I realized 30 years later that they moved to voting to the far right wing, to Jean-Marie Le Pen, and so it was so impossible for me to understand that. I started writing this book to reflect on all these issues. You can read the book, I cannot summarize it. And when my mother died, I had the same kind of impulse to understand who was this woman who happened to be my mother. And when she was an abandoned child by her own mother, raised in an orphanage, and then she became, at 14 years old, a housemaid, and then at 20, she married my father, and she started hating him immediately after their marriage, because he was a stupid man, violent, and so on. But she which is what I try to reflect in the book. What does it mean for a woman to stay with a man she has been hating for 55 years? She hated him, but she did not leave. She tried to divorce, but she renounced. She gave up, and then she became a factory worker. 15 years in a very, very, very harsh factory. It was a glass factory, and the conditions of work in that factory were very, very, very hard. And at that time, my mother was very committed. She was a working class woman, very strong. And she always, when the trade union called for a strike, she was always on the front line to go and strike. And so she was a kind of political subject resisting the condition of life. And then she got retired. She started voting for the National Front, which is for me completely impossible to understand. And when she became older and older, of course, as we all do, and at one point, my brothers and I had to tell her, you have to go to a nursing home because you cannot stay alone in your apartment because you fall on the floor. I have to call the fire brigade to break the window to help you and to send you to the hospital. This cannot last, and you have to go to a nursing home. And what she did, and I was wandering in a village in the north of France, and I was wondering how many years will I come to visit her in that village? How many time a month will I come? And she died 7 weeks after she entered this nursing home. So I was wondering what happened. She was okay. She could walk. She could speak. And suddenly, her health collapsed, and she died. And she let herself die. And so I tried to reflect what are these institutions in our societies, especially in France, in which when your parents you think that your parents will be taken care of. And instead of that, they die 7 weeks afterwards, after the day of their entrance in this institution. So I have to reflect what it is to get older, what it is to lose one's physical autonomy, and having to be taken care of by an institution. So I try to reflect on all these issues and what it is to be a working class woman, especially because her body was destroyed by her work in a factory during 15 years. And so I try to link all these issues of class, gender, age, to it's not only about old age, it's also and death. It's also about her life. I try to reflect on her life. Who was she when she was a factory worker? Who was she when she was a married woman, unhappy married woman? And so all these issues, I try to put that in the same book. And the book is here, translated into Slovak.
But this is very, in a way, it's similar. This method is similar to Return to Rams, where you also start on a personal note with your parents, and you get to some general conclusions, let's say, about class. And this is very similar in case of your mother, when you mentioned that she died 7 weeks after being admitted to the institution. That's her personal story, but you found out that this is not rare. Like, this happens quite a lot to old people, that they die very, very fast after being admitted to the institution. Why is that? Like, what did you find out? Is it the responsibility of society as such, or of these institutions, how these institutions are led or being financed?
After the death of my mother, I started researching on this institution. What is a nursing home in France? And I realized that when my mother entered this nursing home, the doctor told me, be careful. The people who enter this nursing home are in great danger. And I understand. But I did not realize that it was, this sentence was intended to me, be careful. And I did not realize, I did not understand what she was telling me. And yes, my mother was in danger, because as I realized too late, she decided to die because she felt abandoned in the nursing home. She felt relegated there, and maybe mostly she left me messages on my cell phone, during the night, and she was telling me, I'm very unhappy here. I don't want to stay here. I'm very unhappy. When I ring to ask someone to close the door, the window, because I'm cold, nobody comes. When I ring because I want to go to the toilets, nobody comes. And I started researching on after her death. The situation of this institution is scandalous. Because my mother told me I'm not allowed to take a shower every day. So I called the doctor of the institution. My mother told me that you forbid her to take a shower. And she said, oh no, it's not that we don't allow her to take a shower. It's because I do not have staff enough to help her to go to the bathroom. And I told her, it's a public institution. It's financed by supposedly financed by the state or the. And how is it possible that your answer is that I don't have staff enough? I need 2 men to take her to the bathroom, and I don't have 2 men, so it's possible only once a week. And for my mother to take a shower only once a week was a nightmare. And I realized that these institutions, public sector, supposedly financed by the states or the public, the department, the province, and so on, are underfinanced, and they are not staff enough to take care of the elderly in these institutions. Which, how is it possible? In which society are we living if some people cannot take a shower every day, but only once a week? And for my mother, it was impossible.
Now you're talking about state-funded institutions, but you found out things also about private institutions.
I told my brothers we should have choose another nursing home, a private one, which would have been more expensive, but Mom would have been taken care of better than she was. And then a book was published by a French journalist, research into a private institution in the suburbs of Paris, one of the richest suburb in Paris, in which you have to pay, I don't know if that means 12,000 euros a month. 12,000 euros a month to be able to enter this nursing home. And what the book describes about this private sector nursing home, that people were deprived of their breakfast. The orange juice was suppressed. Instead of 2 biscuits, they decided only 1 biscuit. And the diapers, because we have to talk about what we have to talk about, the diapers, instead of being changed twice a day, were changed only once a day, or sometimes every 2 days. So people who got soiled because they cannot, they lost their autonomy, physical autonomy, and so we are not able to go to the toilets where could be changed and cleaned only once a day or every 2 days, and all the description of this private, for the rich people, institution was absolutely even much more scandalous than what I saw in the one in which my mother spent 7 weeks. So. Because what is at stake in the private sector is to make money on the elderly in order to share, to give share to the shareholders of and to give dividends to the shareholders of the company. As I research on the internet about nursing homes, and as you know, we are tracked by. I received advertising, invest in nursing home. The rate is guaranteed high rate of benefits if you invest in nursing homes. This is obscene, obscene to send people like me advertising to invest. To be able to make money on people who are deprived of their physical autonomy, who cannot do anything. So this situation means that the private sector is underfinanced, the public sector is underfinanced, and the private one is ruled by the law of profit and the more obscene law of profit. And so we have to reflect on that. What does that mean? That in our societies we cannot take care of the elderly in a decent way and to take care of them at the end of their life. People who are our grandparents, who are our parents, and you know that they are not taken care of in a decent way. And this is so outrageous that I decided to write the book to reflect on this issue. And there is, you say we are not going to discuss politics, but this is also a way to discuss politics. I said previously that my mother was going on strike with the trade unions, with colleagues in the factory in which she used to work, and she was always on the picket line and so on. But she was a political subject. When she was in the nursing home, she was not anymore a political subject. The messages she left on my cell phone, on the answering machine of my cell phone, were very political. I realized that afterwards. These messages were very, very political because she was complaining about a situation, which meant about the situation of this institution. But she could not go on strike. She could not go to the street with the other residents of the institution. She could not write a manifesto. She could not organize a conference. She could not launch a newspaper or a review. She could not do anything. She was deprived of her status as a political subject. She was not anymore a political subject. She was there on her bed, in her room, and there was nothing she could do to protest against her situation, except leaving me messages on my cell phone. So, what is one of the intent of the book is she did not have a voice. And my book is to try to, after her death, to try to give her the voice she was deprived of. To have her voice heard in the public sphere, because she left me messages, political messages, as I interpret them now, but there was only one person, only one listener. It was private. So if it's private, it's not political. So I took these messages into a kind of reflection of what it is to be deprived of a public voice, and to give her the public voice she was deprived of. And so I reflect what is to be a spokesperson of someone who does not have a voice. And I refer to the famous, not that famous, book by Simone de Beauvoir, Old Age, one of the less well-known books by Simone de Beauvoir. Second Sex is one of the most well-known book, influential book today in the world, internationally. But her book on old age, I realized that when I wrote my book, nobody knows about this book. Nobody knew. Now, thanks to my book, everybody, of course. But, and Simone de Beauvoir, in this book, Old Age, said, I will have the voice of these pariahs heard. And it's exactly what I want to do. So I reframed the sentence by Simone de Beauvoir. I will have my mother's voice heard, and not only my mother's voice, but the voice of the people who were in the same situation as my mother at that time. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's one of the points of your book, to give a voice to your mother or to old people in general. But I must say, like in the end, like it got pretty depressive because you say regarding Simone de Beauvoir's book that it's not an accident that this book is not well known because it is a book on old age, and as many other books, such as Jean Amery's book on old age or many others, they don't get so read and so popular. And as you mentioned, mostly because young people usually don't care that much about old age, and older people don't want to read about old age.
When you are 20, you don't care about old age. When you are 40, you don't care. When you are 60, I don't want to read something about old age. And when you are 85 or 90, you say, it's too late, you know. So nobody wants to read that kind of book. And
so that's basically my question. Like you say, okay, what can we do about this? I can give a voice to my mother. I'm doing it. Here is the book. But on the other hand, you say, people don't read those books as much as they should. So what's the solution?
I should not say that because as you are the publisher, nobody wants to read that. Sorry.
No, you should read it. It's very well written. But
there is, in the introduction of her book, Simone de Beauvoir says, when I was writing this book, so many people told me, why did you choose such a gloomy subject? And it's not very joyful. I know it's not joyful, but it's important. But so people are reluctant to read for many reasons that kind of book. But there is also another reason, which is more political. Second sex is has been popular, widely read everywhere in the world since its publication in 1949. And because generation after generation, there was a feminist movement, feminist activists, feminist intellectual, feminist writers who referred to this book. So it is because there is a movement, feminist movement has changed since that moment when the book was published, but there is still there is a feminist movement, and every generation of people involved in feminism, in the feminist movement, feminist reflection, has to read or open the book to see what she wrote about, to see what are her reflections. It's a reference for a movement. So it's not only an academic book. It's not only important in the academy, in the syllabus of the universities, but also widely in the public sphere, in public politics. But obviously, there is no movement of the elderly, of the old people who are deprived of their physical autonomy because they cannot move, they cannot speak for themselves. So there is no their life when they are in their bed of the nursing home. Their lives will not last for a long time. So 1 year, 7 months for my mother, at a few months, 7 weeks for my mother, a few months would be the most, the longer period of time that people would survive. And so, of course, people are not able to protest, are not able to reflect, are not able to demonstrate, are not able to read anymore, and they die. So if there is no movement, there is no need for reference, political, intellectual, cultural reference for this movement, because the movement does not exist. So it's completely, if you reflect on the status of these two books by Simone de Beauvoir, it's very strange to see how the status of these books is completely different from the first book to the second one. And Simone de Beauvoir, I do admire her because she was very, very inventive. She wrote a book about gender, second sex. In 1949, she was insulted by the right wing, by the left wing, by everybody in France. But she wrote that book, which was an immediate, huge success. And she wrote a book about old age in 1970, and at a time when these issues were not constituted as political and intellectual issues. She invented a political and intellectual problem. What it is to be an elderly, what does that mean to become an old man or an old woman, because the elderly are most often women in this institution, because women, the life expectancy of women is longer than for men. And so I have to reflect on that and how to, as I did for social classes, how to put this issue on the table, because there are books. You mentioned Jean Améry's book on in French,
Revolt. Yep.
And there are novels, there are movies, but that doesn't mean that this is not spoken about. There are a lot, but as though it has no consequences in the public debate, in what we see in our society. We can see a movie, there are great movies, Michael Haneke's movie, Liebe in German, Love, which is really amazing, wonderful, very sad, but wonderful movie. There are some other movies, of course, Nanni Moretti's Mia Madre, and there are movies, there are novels, there are essays like Simone de Beauvoir, Jean Améry's, but they are read, but that does not change. And the political people in the political parties, don't take these issues to put them in the agenda. And one of the point of my book is to tell the political parties, if you don't take that issue in account, maybe we will not vote for you anymore. You have to take in account that the elderly are not second-rank citizens. It's not because they cannot demonstrate, they cannot go on strike, they cannot break the windows in the center of Paris, that they are not people who are that you have to take in account in your agenda.
So, but what do we then need for these movements to emerge? Because you say we need a movement. Like without the movement, the books are not enough. Like as you said, we have great movies, great novels, great books on old age, and that still doesn't mean that the movement will emerge. And without the movement, the politicians will probably not take this problem into account. So what else do we need? What's the role of an intellectual in this debate?
There is no movement because it's impossible that a movement can organize. So there is no movement because it cannot be any movement. So it's a reality we have to face. There is no movement, and there will not have a movement. You can think of movement which is just which are new in the political field. There were no movement, and suddenly you have the transgender movement, which is a very, very important movement today. And 20 years ago, there was no transgender movement, and today there is a very important transgender movement which obsesses the right wing and the conservative, not only Trump, but also
our government as well.
All our government are obsessed by this small, despised minority. I don't know why it's so important for them to fight against the rights of transgender people. I can't understand. We have to support them. It's not the topic of our discussion, but we have to support and to give our support to the transgender movement, of course. But you can have a transgender. There was no movement. There is a movement. But for the elderly, it is not possible, because it's not possible to organize, to mobilize, to organize conferences, as I said, to launch a newspaper, to demonstrate in front of the parliament, and so on, to interrupt far right-wing conferences, and so on. Of course, my mother, on her bed of the nursing home, could not do that, and so. There are retiree movements, which mean people who are 65, who can demonstrate in the street, who can organize in kind of trade unions, of sections of the trade unions. But what I am talking about today is the elderly who lost their physical autonomy. And these people are deprived of any possibility of organizing, and of speaking for themselves. So there is the writers, the filmmakers, the artists, the intellectual has here a role to play, which means to be people who are representing, taking in account in their work, people who are deprived of any representation in the political sphere. Because at the parliament, we always say there are not that many women. Now there are not that many working class people who are members of the parliament, of course, but nobody says that there are not all the people who lost their physical autonomy, because they are not there, and we do not notice their absence. When people are not here, you don't notice that they are. In one text, I wrote about the absent voices in any political movement. When you have a political movement, you have always to ask yourself, who is not here? Who is absent of whose absence we do not notice, because if people are not there, you don't notice that they are not there. You have always to ask yourself, probably this movement is very important, but also grounded on based on the exclusion of some other people who are not here. And so for the elderly, especially the elderly who lost their physical autonomy, they are absent of the public discussion, they are absent of the political movement, of social, cultural movement. They are represented by the artists, by the writers, by philosophers, but not that many by philosophers. They are more present in movies and in literature, because some characters, of course, you have to describe some characters who are old people. But in philosophy, it's like the main concept of philosophical reflection are grounded on the exclusion of people. For example, political philosophy is mainly grounded on the exclusion of the elderly. If you social contract, resistance, demonstration, mobilization, organization, all the concepts of the political philosophy are grounded on the very exclusion of the elderly, because they cannot be here for contracting, they cannot mobilize, they cannot resist, they cannot demonstrate. So if you take all the concepts of the political philosophies, you can see that what defines them is they are excluding, not intermittently, but their very definition is based on grounded on the exclusion of people who cannot do what they describe as the politics. And if
would you then say then the role of contemporary philosopher is to re-examine or redefine the history of political philosophy with these things on his or her mind?
But you know, political philosophy has widened the scope of what is philosophy, of what is politics. Politics is not only the political parties going to be part of the electoral to the election. Politics is also the social movement, ecologists, feminist movement, LGBT movement, of course, anti-racist movement, and so on. So, working class movements, all these movements are political movements, and the political philosophy has taken all these movements in account. But all these movements, I'm not saying that they are not important, of course. And this broadening of the scope of the political philosophy is very important, and I do share this fight to open political philosophy to new, to broaden, to widen the concepts, to open the concepts to other realities. But I realized that all these, my very close friend Judith Butler, if I can mention her, she wrote in a beautiful book that politics, it's about the bodies in the street. Okay, I do like that. But what I did object to her, what about bodies which cannot be in the street? Are they excluded from politics? So I do like your definition of politics. If you are in the street, it is political. And it's a widening, very important widening of the scope of political philosophy. But anyway, it remains that to define politics as the bodies in the street, if your body is in the street, it's already political. It's true, I do share this view. But there are people who cannot be in the street because they are on their bed in the nursing home, and they cannot get out of the nursing home. They cannot move. They cannot stand up. They cannot walk. So, what definition we can have of the body, the political body, if some political bodies are excluded of the definition? So I have to. When I say that, it's not to criticize Judith Butler, who I admire, but it's to broaden her view from my own experience and my own reflection, to broaden the view of what it is to be a political subject. My mother was not a political subject. How can we? I do not have any easy and simple response. Of course, how can would it be possible to give back to my mother, she's dead now, but to people who are in the same situation as she was, how would it be possible to give them back their status of political subject, of political bodies, of political personas? And what can we do? I will not give the answer alone. Even if we are many people, we cannot give an answer. But we have to reflect on that, and to in any definition of what politics is, we have to take in account to think, not to forget that there are people who do not belong to the definition, and we have to reflect how can we take them back to the definition of the political, to include them in the concept of the political philosophy on the political field in a more general way.
Well, maybe one of the ways to include them, of course, is writing books such as this. I really like about your book that on several places you say explicitly, we need to change this. I ask the government to change this. Like the way people are treated in these facilities for seniors is horrible. We need to change it. My question is if anything changed after publishing of your book, or if even may change in contemporary society, because I was thinking of there are many examples when a book can change things, such as Simone de Beauvoir's, or I thought of The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, where he wrote a book from the slaughterhouses, and after being published, like some things for the workers in slaughterhouses changed. So the question is, did it change anything, or can it change anything? Your writing, for example, or writing of books such as this.
When my book was published, there was a huge debate in France, interviews, discussion, and so on. And it was a bestseller, and so on. But
so people like to read about all that.
Yeah, people read it, and it has just been published in a pocket edition 3 months ago, and it's a bestseller too. And I'm very happy of that, of course, but I have to confess that, unfortunately, this has not changed anything, because I was mentioning the book by this journalist who was researching on a nursing home, private one, in the richest suburb of Paris. This was when his book was published. This was so many articles in the newspaper, TV programs, TV talk shows, and everywhere discussion, even in the parliament, and so. 3 months later, the book has been forgotten, and not forgotten because people keep on reading it, but nothing has changed. And I'm afraid that my book was widely discussed, and nothing has changed. And I'm afraid that nothing will change, because if there is no pressure from the street, from the political parties, from our governments will not give money to it. I don't know how it is here in your country, but I assume it's not very good either. But if you see the situation in France, in Great Britain, in Germany, the public. The health system, public hospitals, public housing, public transportation, all what is supposedly public, and is more and more underfinanced, is our president, Emmanuel Macron, destroyed the health system, public services, public sector, step by step, because of course public hospital cost a lot of money, but health, of course, is not, you cannot, the health system in France, in Great Britain, were great health systems, and now they are completely destroyed, dismantled by the neoliberal politics of our government in Great Britain, in Germany, in France, and I'm afraid, I don't know exactly the situation here, but I'm quite sure that it's not better than in France or in Great Britain. And so we have to keep in mind that these fights are never won, and even when they are won, they are always threatened to be pushed back. We can see that with the right of women in Poland, in the US, and maybe in your country or in the country close to your country. And so we have to think that it's an endless battle we have to fight, an endless struggle, but that does not mean that we have to give up, because we know that we will not succeed, and if we succeed, we will not succeed for a long time. We have to renew the battle, but it's we have to acknowledge that and to be ready to fight again and to keep on fighting. So it's the plea of my book: don't give up and keep on fighting on every issues which are important for you.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you help us in this endless battle with books such as these, and I really hope that the Slovak translation will also do something about the public discourse on this topic, because it's not good. It's quite personal for me as well. My father is in a facility like this, and it's horrible. So I know that the conditions are horrible, and it should be talked about much more. We've been talking for an hour now, so no, it's great. No, I would like to talk for another one, but I would ask one more question. Then I know you don't like it that much, but I cannot resist to give the opportunity to people here. We don't have a writer like you here every day, so then I will give the audience possibility for one or two questions, and then we can wrap up.
No, this is not that I don't like it. I told you.
Yeah, we don't have that much
it's
time.
About the time.
Yeah. So my last question is literary, because we are on a literary festival, and your book is full of literature and fiction and quotes from fiction, and you use many writers that write fiction, and one of them, which was really so surprising for me, is Bohumil Hrabal. I didn't expect it in a French book, I must say, and not even that it's Bohumil Hrabal there, but it's one of his works that is not so well known. It's not one of those really bestsellers, but it's Harlekinovi miliony, Harlequin's Millions. I think because I talked about your book with a couple of my friends, even they didn't read this Hrabal's book. Even I didn't read it, and I love Hrabal, but. So, it's a great book. From what you say about the book, it sounds really great. That's on my reading list. So my question is, how did you even find this Hrabal's book? What does it mean for you, or what does returning to fiction means for you in a book such as this one?
I have been admiring Bohumil Hrabal for so many years. I knew his work from the adaptation of one of his books, which in French, Train étroitement surveillé, trains monitored. Excuse me, I don't even know the title in English. In French, trains, étroitement surveillés. It's a wonderful book, a movie by Jerry Menzel, and I read that the book by Bohumil Hrabal, and then I kept on reading some of his novels, Une si bruyante solitude. And so, and when I started writing about nursing home, I realized, I don't know how I knew about that he wrote a book about the nursing home, which is called Harlequin's Millions. And his book is so amazing, it's so beautiful. It's I'm not a writer, my books are not novels, and I refer to books from sociologists, from philosophers, from historians, but I need also books by writers because they can go into the tiniest details of the situation that, of course, a sociologist, a philosopher, or historian cannot reach, and literature can reach the tiniest details, and is so talented to do that. And one thing I do like in his books is how he connects the personal situation to the history of the country. And his characters are described as characters in the details of their characters, of their mind, of their way of life, but also inscribed in the broader landscape of the political situation and. So this book, Millions, in French, Les Millions d'Harlequins, Harlequin's Millions, is really a wonderful book. And I don't know if it's available.
It's available, but it's not so well known as his others.
Because in France, when my book was published, so many people told me, you mentioned a book which is not available in bookstores. Yes, but it's not my fault. And asked the publisher to republish it, but people managed to find it. And if you can find it, first read this book, and then because he will not be very happy if I recommend you another book. But first read this book, and then read Bohumil Hrabal's book, which is really a wonderful book. And it describes what it is to be in a nursing home. Her character enter freely, voluntarily, the nursing home, which is the difference with my mother, because my mother, there was no other choice. But what she described of the nursing home in which she entered is so amazing, so beautifully. I don't really read it in the original language, of course, but I read it in translation. But it's so beautifully written. He's so talented to describe, and in a very poetic way, what is not very, sometimes not very pleasant situation. And it's a great book. So I do admire Bohumil Hrabal. And then I kept on reading some other books. It's I'm sure he's very well known here. He was very well known in France, but his influence has not completely disappeared, but as I don't know the word in English, I'm sorry, as
like there are more like contemporary writers being read, or
is not considered, is not well read. Widely read today in France, and so many people discovered his existence and his books, reading my book, and there are some books which are available in French now, but this one, which as you mentioned, as you said, is not one of the of his most well-known book, is not available. But if it is available here in Slovakia, read it. It's worth reading. I'm sure you will like it.
I'm very certain that after reading your book, many people will want to read. All of you. So there is now like 60 people going to look for the book tomorrow. Thank you very much. So now is the time. If there is one person.
So first, let me just tell you that I feel really sorry for what your mom went through, and also for what you went through. And I want to be more theoretical here at this platform a little bit. And I would like to ask you about the kind of maybe suspension or a kind of a point in time where you realized that actually your mother's voice was heard, or that actually this was a political statement, the messages she sent you. And I would like to ask you whether it's not a time now for a kind of redefinition of what political subject is. And I think you put it really beautifully. You said that it was political in a way because she complained, right? So my question is, could we say political subject, could we define it? That someone is a political subject just because he can raise his voice in a language which is public, no matter she sent the messages just to you or she sent them to you via certain technology, right, via mobile phone. So then it's just the idea to ask without any kind of political agency being able to mobilize or being able to protest or whatever. She simply raised her voice, she complained. So could we say someone is a political subject just on the basis of being able to say in a language and to make a request or to complain? And also there is a writer, Maria Stepanova, who talked actually about the rights of dead people and who said there are people, right, majority actually, of people on the earth who are dead, and still we should start talking about the rights of dead people. And these are the people who actually cannot even raise their voice in a language. So could you comment on it a little bit? Thanks.
I will answer the first part of your question. The second one, I don't know if I have an answer. It's always very difficult to define who is a political subject, because we always consider that to be a political subject is being politically committed and to have a kind of agency, political agency, to do something, to demonstrate, to organize, to mobilize, and all those things we consider as politics. What it is, if you don't mobilize, we here, if we don't act, if we don't mobilize, if we don't organize, we are not political subjects. But we can say that if we go to vote from time to time, we are political subjects because we are trying to oppose fascism, to resist fascism, and we know that all of us know very well that today. My friend Judith Butler has, recently in Athens gave a very wonderful definition about are there only two genders? I say, yes, there are two genders, fascism and anti-fascism. And I do like this answer. It was wonderful, a wonderful answer. It's marvelous. She always has this kind of wonderful answers, and so people are political in their way of life. If you are a transgender, if you are a woman wants to keep freedom, if you are a gay or lesbian in a country in which you are assaulted in the street, you are a political subject. But to be completely a political subject, in order to that what you are can be defended in the political social sphere, you have to organize, because if you are alone, isolated, you can be considered a political subject, but there is no meaning of this politics. And so, of course, my mother was a political subject when she was working in a factory, going on strikes, and she was still a political subject when she started voting for the far right wing, because she decided to do that. She chose. She was able. When I protested against that, she was able to give me her reasons to do that. It was not kind of impulsive. She was able to explain to me why she did that. So she was a political subject, not the kind of political subject I do like, of course, but she was a political subject. But when she was in the nursing home, she was not anymore a political subject in that sense that she could not do anything. She could not even keep on voting. She could not expressing her views. She could not, and so she was a political subject because she was submitted to a kind of state violence, because this institution, as we said, are underfinanced. So to live in an institution which is underfinanced by the state is to be the victim of political violence. So she was a political subject without being able to act as a political subject. So here there is a tension, a contradiction between the two definitions of what does it mean to be a political subject. She was a political subject because subjected to political violence and economic and social violence, but she was not, because she was not able to act as a political, or to protest, or to have a voice. And here, you're right. This is very, very difficult to define what is a political subject. What is the border between being or not being a political subject? And so I try to reflect on that, and I give a little bit belated. I try to give her back the status of a political subject, even when she was in the nursing home, which means even when she was deprived of the status of a political subject. But it is retrospectively. I give her back this status as a political subject retrospectively, which means that I did not do that when she was, I did not have time to do that. It's very strange. We are always late. When I realized that she was dying, letting herself die, deciding to die, when I realized that, it was too late, and so my reaction was a retrospective reaction. So she has a political status, but retrospectively through my book.
Thank you very much. Okay, and one more. If there is any one more question, now is the time. If not, that's basically great, because we really don't have that much time. I was kind of hoping you are not going to ask.
Sorry, my answer.
No, the answer was great, but Mr. Eribon doesn't have that much time after the discussion, and still he agreed that he will sign the books if you would like to have them signed. So thank you very much that you came, not only here, but thank you very much that you came to BRaK Literary Festival. I think we enjoyed these last 4 days a lot. Thank you to the organizers, and mostly thank you, Didier Eribon. Thank you.